meteor came and smacked into Earth, it would just be.
Man, I like you. And I'll tell you why. Because you got the courage to be intellectually consistent. And you're absolutely right, sir. If there is no God, it does not matter whether a meteor smashes into San Marcos tonight or tomorrow and sends us off into oblivion. It really doesn't matter. Because life is ultimately a crapshoot. It ultimately is meaningless.
Not just create us in heaven, if that would be, in my opinion, the most all-loving, all-good thing he could possibly do.
Good. A very hard question, and ultimately I can't answer you, because I don't know what motivates God, obviously. Okay? But here's the best thinking that I have on it. Would you be my friend for 20 bucks? Would you be my friend for 20 bucks? Would you be my friend for 20 bucks? What's the problem there? The problem is, I am excluding his free will to truly care for me. And what I'm saying is, here, I'll give you guys money. If you'll be my friend, please be my friend, and I'll give you money. I'll pay you well to be my friend. See, the problem with that is, when you take free will out of the equation, you reduce the relationship to a contract, a business deal. And guys, if your only friends are the one who you pay their salary, watch out. Okay? Watch out. Hopefully there are some people who really care for you because they love you. And they want to be your friend, not because of how you can benefit them, but because they know that you are a man of integrity, goodness, kindness, and love. Now, God created us to be his friends, which means when God created us, he gives us a free will, which means we don't have to be God's friends. We can choose to be his enemies. And that's what I have chosen. I have chosen to be God's enemy by saying, I don't owe you nothing, God. You owe me. So give me more comfort, give me more convenience, and blast it all, if I experience any discomfort and any inconvenience in life, I'm blowing you away. Out of my life. See, that's the decision that we have to make, and that's why God created us in his image, which means we're not his little robots. And 2 weeks ago, I was at UT Austin, and there was a student there, I am a robot, written right on the shirt. Okay? And I would argue, no, you're not a robot. You're a human being created in the image of God, which means you make your decisions. To love, to hate, to be apathetic, to care for, to be generous, to be stingy, and to hoard. You make your life. And so what's heaven? Heaven is a place for people who have been God's enemies, but who have chosen to repent, to ask God for forgiveness, to put their faith in Christ, that he bled and died on the cross to pay the penalty for their being an enemy of God. Why? Because I want to go back I want to be reconciled to this holy, good God. And God says, yeah, good. Enter heaven. Because you want to be my friend. Let's go. We got eternity to develop a friendship. That's what heaven will be. Eternity, developing a friendship with God, with Jesus Christ. Hell is a statement. God respects your decision enough that if you don't want to be his friend, he's not going to jerk you into his presence to be his friend. That ain't going to happen. Does that answer your first question?
Well enough, yes.
Okay, what is your second question?
I believe another question sprung up from that, but
Go ahead. Whatever you want.
Okay. Heaven is being with God.
Yes.
Right?
Correct.
And therefore it's perfect. It's great. Love it. Every bit of it.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, just because you're there, just because you're in his presence.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Why would that automatically just exclude the ability to say, this isn't my thing. I'm going to go this way. Why does being in his presence suddenly make you unable to say, never mind?
Oh, you can't say never mind. It's what Adam and Eve did. It's what I've done.
Right. So then, doesn't that mean that being created in heaven immediately, you'd still have the free will to say, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
Leave?
Yes, but if you remove yourself from God's presence, he doesn't drag you into his presence.
Yeah.
He says, okay, we're separate.
Yeah. So, well, then shouldn't that mean then that the best thing he can do for us, even if it's only temporary, because we want to say, never mind, we want to go this way, to just create us in heaven automatically. And then when we're there, we can decide, okay, this isn't my thing.
Right.
I'm going to go this way.
Okay, interesting question. You know, you guys are really fortunate to be students here at this fine university. Texas State University was put together this past summer. What? No. There are consequences that have ripple effects that go down through this generations. Texas State University, this fine place that you are studying at, was not put together last summer. Texas State University was put together by a lot of responsible decisions by a lot of generous people. And you enjoy the benefits. And there are also some horrible decisions that people have made that have scarred you and scarred me for life. We are scarred. We're broken people. Eugene O'Neill, great playwright, wrote, "We're all born broken. Life is about healing. The grace of God is the glue." There are consequences. If you're African American, born in the United States, there are consequences of slavery. Hopefully you're not going to have a victim mentality, but I can promise you, if I don't acknowledge, as an American citizen, that there are some horrible ramifications of slavery in the United States, I am a naive fool. So like it or not, although you have a free will, there are consequences to your free decisions. And you can do something like build this fine university, or you can do something as horrible as slavery or racism or sexism and destroy people's lives. Now, because God is just, he's going to hold you responsible. And because he's good, he's not going to allow evil to win. You just got to understand, atheism is a statement, as well as agnosticism. Evil wins. So live with it. And don't wiggle out and talk to me about, oh, let's just have positive thinking. Let's act like the good don't die young. And evil people, they die young. The good, they just have a great life. That's a crock, and you know it. Very good, innocent people get ripped off, and some pretty corrupt, greedy people win the day. And it's not just. And so what Jesus is saying is, because God is just, he guarantees that evil will be punished and will lose. And that's the only reason there's going to be a hell. Not because God's a cosmic bully. False. But because God is good, because sin has been done, he will punish it. He will destroy it. That's hell. Does that make sense?
Yes. However, I don't really think you answered my question.
I'm sorry. How did I not?
Well, I mean, I can understand the thought process of, you do a bad thing, therefore you're going to be punished, right? If
Right.
it goes against what's right.
Right?
Sure, that makes sense. However, the question was, why not, how does being already in the good place
You bet.
make free will suddenly just disappear?
You bet. Because there's a consequence. And Adam and Eve rebelled against God, and that's where the train got off the track. That's why Genesis 3 records the great fall. Not stubbing of the toe, a big, big fall. Adam and Eve rebel against God, and everything goes berserk. Haywire.
Even for the people that had nothing to do with it?
Correct.
Millions of years down the line?
Exactly. Now do you see why I used the Texas State University example? Now do you see why I use the example of slavery? Let's get real personal now, okay? I don't know that this guy has been treated fairly in this culture. I do know that his foreparents, foremothers and forefathers, were not treated fairly. So to think that, oh, I just live my life, it's just me, that could not be more false. I live my life, and I abuse some people, and I'm rude to some people, and I hurt some people. And I also live my life, and I'm just and kind and loving and forgiving. But for me to think, oh, my decisions don't have any long-term consequences is really naive. They do. And that's exactly what Genesis 1 and 3 are talking about. God creates us to live in heaven. We human beings say, bye-bye, I'm out of here. I have a better understanding of fun than you do, God. I want my definition of fun, not your definition of joy. So we'll do it my way. And God says, all right, I gave you free will. Just read the parable of the prodigal son. The father gives the inheritance to the son, and the son grabs it and runs off to a distant land. That's me. Now, by the grace of God, I turned from running away from God, put my faith in Christ, and have been reconciled to him. And I'm praying that every one of you will make that same decision, because I'm convinced that Jesus Christ is the truth. He's reliable. He's trustworthy.
Like, if God is such a good God, then like,
Right.
why does he allow all the bad stuff to happen?
Yep. Okay, I just become a grandpa. So, if some guy comes along and tries to brainwash my little granddaughters, I am going to be all over them like a wet blanket. Why? Free will, individuality, personhood, the ability to love is a huge hunk, I am convinced, and that's what Christ taught, of being a human being, not a robot. So, what is evil? Evil is a free decision to do wrong, to violate my conscience, to contradict the Ten Commandments, to violate Christ. I have that freedom. You have that freedom. We both have violated our consciences. We've experienced guilt, both you and I have. We both have violated the Ten Commandments. I certainly have. We both have violated the words of Christ in the Sermon on the Mount. We have broken God's objective morals. We're guilty. But God loves us so much that he sent his son Christ to bleed and die on a cross, to pay the penalty for our wrongdoing, to forgive us and to give us the gift. It's a gift. It's not something you earn by going to church. It's not something you earn by working in a soup kitchen. It's a gift that God gives you when you put your faith in him. Then, because your faith is in him, you will meet with other believers. That's church. You will work in a soup kitchen. That's caring for the hurting. You will feed the hungry. You will clothe the naked. Not because that's the way you pile up brownie points with God to make it to heaven. No, because your heart has been changed instead, and you understand what it means to love God and to love people. And you will stand against racism, and you'll stand against sexism. Because you understand all human beings have been created in the image of God, and to dehumanize a person is evil. It is sinful. Have I answered you or not yet?
Well, I just, like, for all the bad stuff to go on, like, why can't he just take it out? Like, why can't he just, like, get rid of it? Like,
okay, good. He will. When he returns a second time, there will be a day of judgment, and he will take evil out. That's what hell is. Hell is the destruction of evil. Oh, I don't like the idea of hell. I understand. I understand. I don't like the option. Really doesn't matter what you do. It's all meaningless. You can hate, you can love. You can murder, you can feed hungry people. It doesn't matter. Because we're all going to the same place that Adolf Hitler and Mother Teresa are. The fertilizer pit. And if you think about it seriously enough, you begin to realize this life means nothing. See, the reason that it matters if I sin against you is because you have innate value. God created me for a purpose. And when I violate the purpose for which he created me and demean or dehumanize or trivialize you, because God is good, he takes us seriously, and what I do to demean you and to hurt you is evil. And because he takes us seriously, because he loves us, he has to judge that.
I've noticed that in general nobody really has a reason to care one way or another. The universe, in my opinion, of course, doesn't have a reason to care one way or the other. Again, so if tomorrow a meteor came and smacked into Earth, it would just be.
Man, I like you. And I'll tell you why. Because you got the courage to be intellectually consistent. And you're absolutely right, sir. If there is no God, it does not matter whether a meteor smashes into San Marcos tonight or tomorrow and sends us off into oblivion. It really doesn't matter, because life is ultimately a crapshoot. It ultimately is meaningless. And you know what frustrates me? So few of my atheist friends and agnostic friends have your courage. Instead, my atheist friends and agnostic friends say, well, there is no God, and life really ultimately is meaningless, but I'm going to create my own meaning. Well, there is no God, and human beings are just simply cockroaches evolved to a higher order. But it really does matter whether I step on a cockroach or whether I step on a person. No, ma'am. If there is no God and we're all accidents, it doesn't matter whether you step on a cockroach or whether you step on a human being, because it is just different levels of the evolutionary cycle. That's all it is. And ultimately, it's all meaningless. And you, sir, for some reason that I don't know, because I don't know you, have had the courage to face that. Bravo. Now, what I'm pleading with you, sir, is you know in your gut that if I step on a cockroach or if I step on her, there is a difference. And that's why I can't be an atheist, because my experience of life is that there is one whale of a big difference between me stepping on a cockroach and me stepping on a newborn baby or stepping on her. And I think that that's what you believe also, in your experience.
Yeah.
Okay, now, sir, now we got the door opening here, right? If your experience contradicts what you believe, don't you think you got a problem with your belief? In the same way that if I say to you, I'm a follower of Christ, and you say, fine, Cliff, but look how you live, man. You hate people, you're promiscuous, you're racist, you just can't do anything to live it out. I would have to say, you know, bud, you're right. I say I believe something, but due to the fact that I can't live it out, I better go back and re-examine what I believe. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I have a comment about that.
Go.
I suppose, in a way, it's sort of, because God is outside of this universe, there's an argument to be made that the universe really doesn't care about you.
Right.
Ultimately, God does.
Very good. Does not care a rip about me, does not give a rip about you. No question. Not only that, the tree that you're enjoying its shade doesn't give a rip about you, doesn't give a rip about me. People here, I think some of them could care about you. Even fewer could care about me, probably, all right? But I am convinced that we're human beings with rational minds, consciences, and with this uncanny ability to love and to care. And that is why I can step on a cockroach if my wife is screaming with fear of the cockroach, but I would never step on her, because she's been created by God in His image, and there is a qualitative difference between the cockroach and her. Oh, that's obvious, Cliff. It's because you affirm your value as a human being, so you'll step on a cockroach because they're not a human being, but you won't step on her because she's a human being. No, that is not the reason. It is instead, she has an innate value that comes from her Creator. I've been created for a purpose, to love and respect her, not to step on her. Does that make any sense?
Oh, yeah.
I find it difficult to say that Christianity is more necessarily reliable. Like it is the most reliable option, when every single option will teach roughly the same ideals and ethics.
Sir, Muhammad died and stayed dead. Siddhartha Gautama Buddha died and stayed dead. Jesus died, 3 days later, rose from the dead. Does that not set him apart as unique, as different?
No, because Odin died and came back.
Who?
Odin.
Really?
Yes.
That's mythology, sir. And mythology can communicate truth. But if you're a history major, you better be honest. You better acknowledge that literary style is mythology. The literary style of the Gospels is not mythology. It's a clear claim. We saw him die on a cross. Joseph of Arimathea, very well-known guy of that day, great politician, buried him in his tomb. We dispersed in disillusionment. Nobody was a true believer. We thought the case was over. 3 days later, he appeared to some people who were not even allowed to testify in court because the sexism was so bad. They were women.
Yes.
So the first eyewitnesses of the resurrected Christ were women. Not a good way to pile up credibility if you're trying to foist a fable on society.
Well, hold on. Because it is mythology. In popular culture now that paganism has, for the most part, died off, it is considered mythology.
No,
But
no,
there
the
are
literary style of those stories is mythology. It's not reading like, at this time, in this place, with these people around, Odin said this and did that. It's the same with Isis and Iris and Horus in Egyptian literature. It is not historical claims. And it's same with Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads of Hinduism. It's using myth to communicate truth. Jesus Christ is totally different. Jesus Christ and the Gospels are not, here's a neat mythology, and from this mythology, here's the truth I want you to get. It's not that. It's, he really lived, really healed people, really taught, Sermon on the Mount, really died on a cross, spear jammed into his side, watery serum separate from clotted blood, flowed from his side, taken off the cross, put in a tomb, stone rolled in front, disciples dispersed in disillusionment. 3 days later, he starts appearing risen from the dead, and for over a period of 40 days, he appears to over 500 people who see him at different times in different places risen from the dead. Sir, that is different literary style, genre.
Okay. I get what you're saying now. So the distinction would be like specific dates and specific eyewitness accounts, right? Would that be?
Very important.
Okay, so in the War of the Three Brothers in the Vedas, when Shiva assisted Indians going to Sri Lanka to attack, the land bridge was formed 8,000 years ago, which is still in place today. A specific geographical account of the Sri Lankan bridge, which Hinduism can get back to roughly teaching the same morals.
Yeah.
So, back to my question, how would it be more reliable?
Because when you read Hinduism, the Vedas and Upanishads, if you walk away saying, those are very good historical documents, you don't know, you're not an historian, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's historical, but
Good.
I would say that
you
it
know
would
that.
attempt to make a historical claim, but I wouldn't say it's historical. I would
It's
not use
an
that.
attempt to make an historical claim.
There's
It's not
specific
the point of
dates.
Hinduism.
There's specific dates in it.
Yes, but that's clearly within the literary style of mythology. I mean, it's clear. For instance, if I were to say to you, the book of Revelation, gosh, it's got a beast with 9 heads. Dude, that's an historical event. No, time out, sir. The book of Revelation is not historical narrative. The book of Revelation is apocalyptic literature. It has nothing to do with historical narrative. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, historical narrative. Book of Revelation, no, sir. Not history, apocalyptic literature. The book of Psalms, history, no, ma'am. No, sir. Poetry, clear hymnology, clear poetry, clear songs of praise. Zippo to do with history. Okay? Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, clearly. Most excellent Theophilus, Luke begins his gospel. I have written a careful account of all the events surrounding Jesus so that you may know the reason for your belief. Clearly historical narrative. Eyewitness reportage. Okay, now why are you agnostic?
Generally because I believe that there is probably something, whether that's singular being, hundreds of thousands of beings, something guiding us more than just random probability. Though I would probably say that that thing would be closer to random probability than any given god or gods.
Okay. Now the reason I have moved on from that position is because I've really enjoyed this conversation with you. You're intelligent, you're articulate, and I cannot believe that your reason comes from the irrational.
Okay, why is that?
Because in all of my observation of life, reason does not come from non-reason, reason comes from reason. 100 times out of 100. You see, hear something rational, you know there's a rational mind that's saying it. Okay? So, is it more reasonable for me to think your ability to reason and articulate as beautifully as you have comes from non-reason? Or is it more reasonable for me to believe that your ability to reason and articulate comes from a rational being, creator God of some type, or gods?
To say that, I feel like we have to grant that math would be irrational, because probability essentially boils down to math, right? So like the probability of any given piece of bacteria evolving to the next piece is simply just a math problem, right? Just probability. How many X times can we get before X
Okay.
mutation occurs?
Okay, fine. I understand. Here's why I disagree. Just met this guy. All right, I don't know his name. I don't know anything. I cannot treat him as a mathematical formula. I cannot treat his decisions as a mathematical formula. Why? Because he's a person. He's not a mathematical formula. So I have to have different tests other than mathematics to determine whether we should build a friendship or not. I will look for things like integrity, honesty, the ability to care, the ability to be empathetic, the ability to make a commitment. When he says, Cliff, I'll meet you at 5 o'clock down at the restaurant, he's there. He takes me seriously. I take him seriously. We begin to share our lives. We begin to open up. He tells me about some of his pain and hurt. I tell him about some of my pain and hurt. And we encourage each other. We build each other up. See, sir, that's a relationship. Has nothing to do with mathematics, has nothing to do with quantum physics, it has nothing to do with science. It has to do with trusting a person. Well, let me share with you why I'm so firm on this. Very wealthy scientist, very good scientist, made a lot of money. Had a family, he loved his science and he loved his money. One day, his adult children began going off the rails. He pleaded with his sons, don't go down this path, you're going to destroy your life. His sons ignored him. He's sitting back at home and he's hurting so badly over the decisions his irresponsible sons are making. And then all of a sudden he starts asking, what's more important, my relationship with my sons or science? What's more important, my relationship with my boys or my bank account? And all of a sudden he began to realize what's far more important to me is my relationship with my boys. I've made a mistake. All life long, I've been emphasizing science, career, making a bucket load of money. The mistake I've made is I haven't woken up and realized what on earth is the most important thing to me in life. By far the most important thing to me in life is my sons, my boys. And they're self-destructive. They're exploding their lives. And I can't change them.
When Jesus died on the cross and went to hell and such, for how long was he suffering?
I do not know.
Okay. So then, another question. When people die and they don't die, they don't die having been, like living in accordance with God and accepting Jesus as their Savior and all that good stuff, right? They go to hell forever, right?
No.
Why not? For how long do they stay in hell then?
Well, when a person dies, the hard question biblically is, what state are they in? And because Jesus and other parts of the New Testament talk about death as being sleep, some followers of Christ view death as soul sleep. In other words, waiting till Christ returns a second time, where there'll be a resurrection, and then there'll be a day of judgment. Myself, because of Philippians chapter 1, where Paul writes, for me to live is Christ and to die is gain, I understand that when a follower of Christ dies, their soul, their personhood, goes into the presence of Christ. Exactly what happens to an atheist or an agnostic or someone who rejects Christ, I really don't know. The Bible doesn't really clarify, but what it does say is that when Christ returns a second time, we will all be raised to life. We will have to give an answer to God for the lives that we've lived, and then there will be a separation, heaven and hell. Does that make any sense?
Okay. So then, what exactly then happens to... I'm sorry if I'm just rehashing the original question from before, but then what exactly did Jesus accomplish when he died and did whatever it is that happened in those
You bet.
days?
What did he? That's a great question. Thank you, sir, for raising it. He hauls back and smacks you. I look him in the face and say, I forgive you. What? Cliff, he didn't do anything against you. Cliff, do you think you can forgive him for hitting you? That's absurd. When he hits you, you have to make a decision. Am I going to forgive him or not? And he needs to ask you for forgiveness. But according to Christ, not only does he have to ask you for forgiveness, he has to ask God for forgiveness. Because God created you with value, God created him for a purpose, and that purpose is not for him to hold back and smack you. So when Christ died on the cross, he's offering forgiveness to us all. Why? Because he's God in human form. Because he laid his life down on the cross to pay the penalty for human sin. He's not just him saying, oh, I will forgive Son of Sam for murdering so many people in New York City. What? It doesn't matter. It's the people who he murdered who have to choose to forgive him or not. It's God who has to forgive him or not. So you see, the significance of the cross of Christ is, he's not just your average Joe, saying, you know, I'm a really altruistic guy, I think I'll sacrifice my life for everybody. What? I can't sacrifice my life for your sin. I got my own sin that I have to answer to God for. But because Jesus lived a sinless life, and because he's God in human form, he is in a position to sacrifice his life for you, and me, and you. For all of us. Why? Because he's the one who gave us life. He's the creator God. Is that beginning to make any sense?
Yes, but I have another question, but if you want to ask.
No, go right ahead. Sir, I appreciate it.
So, God in human form, right? Jesus
Yes.
is God.
Right.
That's the thing. So, then, can I just ask, as you said before, when people die, they're essentially put to sleep, right? Like, up until judgment, right? Okay. So then, you know, if God doesn't get put to sleep after he's Jesus and just goes back to being, I guess, primarily God instead of God and Jesus, then why exactly would just suffer? Why does the pain of, the temporary pain of being Jesus make up for everything else when it's not, frankly, it's not even remotely within the same universe as the rest of humanity's anything? What, if anything, it was nothing to him. The pain was nothing to him. He is
Okay, very good. Excellent question. Very hard question. All right. When Jesus was dying on the cross, he cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me? In other words, Jesus, the second person of the triune God, had spent eternity with his Father. All of a sudden, because God the Father dumped my sin, your sin, the sins of the world on his Son Christ, Christ was separated from his Father, whom he had spent eternity with. And in his cosmic loneliness and alienation, he cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me? That is hell. Hell is separation from God. And that is what Jesus went through on the cross. And I don't know for how long after his death, but definitely for some of it. Now, the crux of the answer to your question is, because of who Jesus is, God in human form, he is capable of laying his life down because he's the just judge of the universe, to pay the penalty for your sin and for my sin, for everybody's sin. Okay, what have I not answered? It's a great question you're raising.
Okay. So then this actually brings up another question.
Yeah.
Second coming, right? Of Jesus, he's going to come back an unknown time in the future to bring us all back to life, right? Everyone that's died, put to sleep, everything, right?
Yeah.
And judge us. So then, where is he now, if not with God?
He is with God.
He is.
The Father.
Okay.
Jesus is definitely with God the Father.
Okay.
He rose from the dead, ascended to heaven, which is basically another way of saying life in another dimension. Heaven is not 1 million miles out that way or 10 million miles out that way, right? Heaven probably is life in another dimension.
So then he's back with it.
He's with his Father, correct.
Okay. So they're back to being one of the...
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
The Trinity, yes. So then, how does the... any amount of time we could ever possibly comprehend
Right.
is nothing compared to eternity, right?
Correct.
Zero, nothing, less than nothing, right?
Well, no, not exactly, but
Still,
pretty minuscule.
compared to infinity,
Right.
any number we have is nothing. So then that would have to mean for a finite amount of time, no matter how long that time was, he was still separated from God for a countable amount of time, right? In some regard, right?
Yes.
Wherever it is,
Yes.
that was he was when it was happening.
That's right.
So then, how exactly is that finite amount of separation from God comparable to the infinite separation from God that everyone else that isn't in accordance with his laws
Yep.
experience? How's that fair?
How's that fair?
How's that fair?
Okay, it's fair because God has given you and all of us great dignity, rational minds, consciences, an innate drive to know God, to study anthropology. Every culture around the world has some type of religion. So we as human beings have this God-shaped vacuum at the center of our being, a God-shaped hole. And we're going to fill it with something. And if we fill it with something other than God, we're choosing to live our life separate from God. And what Christ is saying is, you are so significant, your decisions matter. Because you have a free will, there are consequences to your decisions. Decide carefully, decide wisely. Because the decisions that we make in this life have eternal ramifications. That's the point. The point is not quid pro quo. The point is, God has given you so much dignity, so much responsibility, so many gifts, and He's revealed Himself so clearly that you are responsible in this life to decide where you want to spend eternity.
So then, might I ask further, as you said, he revealed himself very clearly back then, right?
Today,
How today?
I don't think you have to have too much common sense to realize that there's some type of creator.
Could you give me an example of this?
Sure. You and I come around a bend in the Dakotas, and all of a sudden you and I are looking up at Mount Rushmore. And I turn to you and say, wow, look what the water did. Gosh, that's George Washington up there. Man, oh man, there's Abraham Lincoln next to him. And by golly, if it ain't old Teddy Rough Rider Roosevelt. Isn't it amazing what the water did as it dripped over the rock face? Why is that ridiculous? Why does that contradict common sense? Because water by accident does not carve out the heads of Washington, Lincoln, and Roosevelt and Jefferson on Mount Rushmore. It takes an artist. It takes a sculptor. It takes an intelligent mind to bring that kind of order and design. Just move from Mount Rushmore to this universe, to your body. There is so much intricate design in your body that for you to say it's ultimately a cosmic accident is you parting company with common sense. It doesn't happen that way, guys. You know that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of, because, I mean, well, if you look at it as everything's a cosmic accident, that it would sound ridiculous if you phrase it like that. However, scientists can and have, like, looked at how the body works, right?
Yes.
Traced it backwards and seen, oh, okay, so it works by all these things that just help it be. They can explain not every single thing just yet, but they're explaining things, as time goes on, as science goes on. So, I mean, they're seeing how these things could have happened from prior circumstances, how they could have formed in accordance with just the world around it.
Sure. Where is the creative mechanism in chemistry? Sir, there is none. Biology and chemistry are tremendous studies of process. That's all it is, guys. There is no biologist who's being honest who's going to say, oh, we know what the creative mechanism is behind the process. And let me give you a hint why your statement, well, we don't know it now, but we're going to know it in the future. Let me tell you why that's wrong. Because the question of God is not a scientific question. It's a philosophical question. And that is why the idea that, oh, science is going to show us that there is no God, and that we just come about by chance, it's impossible. Because the scientific process is a study of process, not a study of the creative mechanism. Because there's no way that you can study the creative mechanism scientifically. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I would call that an astounding argument from ignorance, actually. If I may go back to what you said earlier about God being about the argument from creation, right?
Right.
The second you postulate a creator in this whole thing that is going to create everything from design, that creator would have to come from another creator that has to be at least as complex, and then you're going and getting spun out in this whole entire infinite regress. And that has to stop somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically you're getting to who created God, then who created this God, then who created this God, who created this God. So the second you argue from intelligent design, that intelligent designer has to be the process of an intelligent designer that is at least, if not more complex than that designer.
Really?
And you are talking about mechanisms, right? How there is no mechanism.
No creative mechanism.
No creative mechanism.
Right. You don't create something out of nothing. It doesn't happen.
I agree.
Something comes from something. Something never, ever comes from nothing. Correct.
I agree.
Good. I'm glad we agree.
I agree. Something never comes from nothing. I would absolutely agree.
Good.
It has to come from somewhere. Something doesn't just void out of nothing. So it has to stop somewhere. There has to be some buck-stopping action.
Yep.
But to postulate God
Right.
is to get something from nothing.
Okay. Fair enough. Here's philosophically why I disagree with you. Point one.
Okay.
Everything that has a beginning has a cause.
Okay.
Point two. The universe has a beginning. Point three. Therefore, the universe has a cause.
Fair enough.
That cause is either matter and energy are eternal. The problem with that is, as Albert Einstein found out very harshly, the Big Bang Theory blows that to shreds. The Big Bang Theory shows us before the Big Bang there was nothing. The Bible insists God is eternal. God does not have a beginning. Obviously, Einstein, when he was a pantheist, thought the universe is eternal. The universe doesn't have a beginning. And that's why Einstein used a mathematical lie to try and disprove the Big Bang. But his mathematical friends showed him wrong, and he admitted, guys, I put the fudge factor in there because I don't like the conclusion of the universe is not eternal, because it clearly points to some type of God. And so the universe is not eternal. So then the question is, what makes more sense? What is more reasonable? And I think it's rather clear. An eternal God who has no beginning, which means there is no cause for God. No cause. Why? Because God does not have a beginning. Therefore, God does not need a cause. Remember the first point? Everything that has a beginning has a cause. The universe has a beginning, therefore the universe has a cause. But God has no beginning. Therefore, there does not need to be a cause for God. Does that make sense?
That actually does.
Oh, thank you.
Now let's say that all that is right, that the universe is eternal, and that there is a cause somewhere, right?
No, the universe is not eternal. The Big Bang shows that, right?
Actually, no. The Big
Okay.
Bang is just a label that physicists put on something because they don't know what happened beforehand. So that's kind of a misleading label. We don't know what came before the Big Bang. And all we know is that there was this explosion that came from somewhere. No one knows what came before that. To say I don't know is not to say, oh, this did not happen.
Right.
So let's grant that you're right, that everything you just said was right.
Okay.
That, and I've heard you referencing, your arguments sound very familiar to Aristotle, actually. That there is some Aristotelian prime mover up here, right? That is the source of all motion, the cause of all motion, the uncaused cause, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is not synonymous to an omniscient, omnibenevolent, omnipresent, eternal God. And Aristotle, if he were alive, would tell you that himself.
Yeah. So obviously, Aristotle and I disagree.
All right, well, there's one thing to disagree, and then there's one thing to arrive at a conclusion that actually reflects reality.
Yeah.
So the reason we're having this conversation, the reason why we're all here, someone is right and someone is wrong.
That's
And
exactly right.
I'm
Very
not
good.
saying I'm right. I'm
Yes,
not,
you are. You
Nope.
started with some pretty strong statements when you started about me.
I did.
Okay, thank you for acknowledging that. So let's not act like you're just an innocent passerby who thought, wow, this is interesting. No, you've got an opinion, and I respect that. And you disagree with me, and I respect that. That's just fine, okay? But let's not deceive each other by saying, oh, no, we really don't disagree. No, we do disagree.
All right, fine.
Okay.
I don't disagree with you on everything. I'm saying it very well could be the case that there's some Aristotelian prime mover up there causing everything. I don't know that for sure.
Right.
Because I don't know the cause of the universe. I'm not pretending to know here. You're the
Right.
one who's pretending to know here, to know everything. That's why you're here, am I right?
No, I do not know everything. I repeatedly say, I do not know. I do not know everything.
Okay, whatever. I would say that even if there is some Aristotelian prime mover up in the sky, we cannot ascribe to it the moral qualities that we ascribe to God.
Okay. Now let me tell you why I think it's more reasonable to believe that there's a personal God than to believe that there's an impersonal God. Real simple. It's not
Okay.
going to take too much work on your part, guys. Is it more reasonable to believe the personal comes from the non-personal, or is it more reasonable to believe the personal comes from the personal? Guys, 100 times out of 100, a personal human being comes from a personal human being. You never get the personal coming from the non-personal. You never get love out of a rock. You never get free will out of a statue. You get a rational mind from a rational mind. You get a personal being from a personal being. You get the ability to love because you're a human being with a physical mom and dad who have the ability to love. God brought you into this world with this incredible ability to love. So, if there is just an impersonal prime mover, my problem with that is, I'm sorry, too much of my life is all about the personal. The personal does not come from the impersonal. You don't get the personal out of cement, out of a rock. You don't even get the personal out of a tree. You get a personal from a personal being. And that is part of why I'm convinced the Bible is totally reliable when it talks about God is love. God is a personal being who loves you and who wants to live in relationship with you. Does that make sense?
Why don't you jump in here, man? I kind of had it.
Okay.
I'll just start out by saying that really begs the very question of what we're talking about. It begs the whole entire question of God's existence. You're basically saying, oh, I think God exists, therefore he exists. And that's really all I'm going to say.
You've done a horrible job listening to me, sir. You have not listened.
That's just your opinion.
That's reality, man. I didn't just say I believe God exists because I believe. I said these are the reasons I believe God exists. Now, come on, man. It's not easy for me to speak hours and hours out here. Please listen and don't attack a straw man. Come on, I respect you, you respect me, and let's have an honest intellectual discourse. That's what I thought we were at university for. I do not believe because I believe. That's idiocy. That's being irrational. I believe because of evidence. I believe God exists because there's overwhelming evidence. I believe in Jesus Christ because there's overwhelming evidence that he is reliable. I do not believe because I believe. That's lunacy. Yes, sir.
About the impersonal personal thing, right?
Yes.
Like what you were talking about a second ago.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see why you would think, okay, so I feel these things, therefore I feel it because of God. God is love, I feel love, therefore, boom, right?
Yeah, one of my pieces of evidence that God exists is my experience and my ability to love.
Okay.
Because if there is no God, love is a chemical reaction. Because if there is no God, you're limiting reality to matter and energy. And you don't get love, a free will, out of matter and energy. This cement, the inanimate, has no ability to love. Right? I mean, is that clear, guys, or am I talking gibberish? Do you go out on a date with a rock? Do you go out on a date with a tree? No. You go out on a date with a human being who's a personal being with a rational mind, a free will, the ability to love or not love. Right?
Right.
Okay.
But, I mean, wouldn't it also make sense that the way we feel things and the reason we feel things is also just beneficial for life? It helps us continue to live, right? If people didn't feel the need, it's a need to be near each other, right? To seek out other people, to form groups, to form societies, all that stuff, right? To continue their life and the lives of others, then we wouldn't have any need to. If that didn't help us live, we wouldn't feel it. It would serve no purpose.
Okay.
So then, doesn't it just make sense that why we feel things and the way we feel them is just a product of, necessity for life, which is, evolution?
Hey, it's possible that what you're saying is true. The reason I can't buy it is because although I might love him because we're both occupants of planet Earth and we both want to survive, I am convinced that there is more to my relationships with certain people than simply, we want to survive, so let's coexist. I am convinced that people have sacrificed for me. They have given out of their backside for me. I didn't deserve it. I didn't earn it. They purely loved me. And guess what? That is such an important part of my experience in life that for any atheist to tell me, oh, that's just part of the evolutionary cycle, that's just people's chemicals going off a certain way, is such a crock, it's incredible. And I can promise you, the guy who tells me that the reason that racism is wrong is because we just got to coexist so we can evolve higher. That's also a crock. I am convinced that racism is wrong because every human being is created in the image of God, given an innate dignity that comes from God, which means racism is wrong, not because I'm part of Black Lives Matter. Racism is wrong, not because I'm a white intellectual elitist. Racism is wrong because God created every single human being in his image. And to denigrate a human being because of a different ethnic heritage is sin. It's evil. And God will judge us for it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
See, that's my experience.
Yep.
And so that's why I was so offended by this guy, or your buddy, or whoever he is. You don't know, yeah. Well, when he says, you just believe because you believe. That is such a lie, it's incredible. I believe because of evidence. And if there's no evidence, I'm not going to believe. I believe because of experience. I experience life. I experience love. I experience meaning in life. I experience free will. In fact, I've experienced free will so much that if you smack him in the face, I'm going to look you in the face and say, that was wrong. You should not have done